Not many movies make as much sense to make a video game about than 2008's cheese fest that was Wanted. Not only did it have good box office success, but more importantly, it just feels like a video game with the ridiculous stylized action, the edgy dialogue, and a story where the leading character basically finds out he's a bullet-curving super assassin and joins the secret society of bullet-curving super assassins. If that doesn't sound like a video game, I don't know what does. It's insanity, and I know it cops it a lot, but it's absolutely one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. Then again, I liked X-Men Origins Wolverine, so apparently I have no taste. I've always known about the Wanted video game, which came out just under a year after the movie in March of 2009. At the time, the Classic Game Room and IGN and Good Game Reviews caught my attention in saying that it was a flawed but decent fun cover shooter with some bullet time and bullet curving mechanics, but for one reason or another, I never actually picked it up until very recently. I covered the Bourne Conspiracy a few weeks back, which was in a similar vein to this. The comments on that reminded me this existed. I picked it up for $4, and here we are. The first thing you do is select a difficulty where the easiest difficulty is called Pussy. I ain't no goddamn pussy, so I chose the medium difficulty because you can't select the hardest until you beat the game once. I hate it when games do that. The game then opens by insulting you.
Once I was clueless and pathetic just like you. Sitting in front of the TV, playing video games, getting fat. I was a loser.
Geez, steady on. It was at this moment I really remembered what the Wanted movie was actually like. James McAvoy being edgy for a couple of hours? Sign me up. Unfortunately, this isn't James McAvoy speaking in the game, though they did make the character model look like him. Fortunately, they got the main McPoyle from Always Sunny, also known as that guy who's in everything, to do the voice instead, which at least to me is almost better. He does a pretty entertaining impression.
Man, you'd think Ronnie would hire some better goons than these mental midgets.
As you start up the game and work through some very straightforward tutorials, you realize you're playing a Gears of War style cover shooter. It's fairly standard stuff, so if you don't like those, you probably won't like this. Unfortunately, it controls quite awkwardly. Playing on 360, I found that aim sensitivity and acceleration was a bit awkward, and movement didn't feel great either. This is made up for by a really generous cover switching mechanic where you can super quickly get between cover at the press of a button, so a lot of the time you barely need to engage with the movement that's otherwise kind of slow and clunky. Moving while in cover is slow too, so really the first impression I got from this game was quite bad. It doesn't help that the game is happy to jarringly cut away from the story to throw you some tutorials rather than just smoothly introducing these new mechanics in the main missions, because it's not like they're particularly confusing. Early on, you're introduced to the bullet curving, which is where I started to warm up to the game quite a bit. You simply hold down a bumper, the game locks onto an enemy or explosive and shows you an arc which turns from red to white when the bullet path is clear. You let go of the bumper and you fire the shot. It's simple, but it makes a lot of sense in a cover shooter since your enemies are often in cover. Sometimes it'll displace enemies and sometimes it'll kill them, and whenever you get a kill you'll earn another adrenaline slot, which is that bullet on the top right of the screen, which you can cash in to curve another bullet. It's not an exceptional system by any means, but it's welcome fun and it fits because this is the Wanted video game. It then cuts to you playing as James McAvoy's dad, or rather Wesley Gibson's dad named Cross, in a flashback mission set before the movie. Weapons of Fate mostly takes place shortly after the movie, while occasionally jumping back to Cross before the movie in an attempt to supplement the story and flesh out the character of Wesley. I guess you could say this is Wanted's Godfather Part 2. I already regret making that comparison. Though on paper, I quite like this as a way to tie in a video game, it's not exactly executed well. The outsourced pre-rendered cutscenes are super awkward and cheaply animated. They almost have like a Source filmmaker vibe to them, and though the cast mostly does what they can, they seem to have some real dodgy delivery sometimes, and the writing leaves so much to be desired. Although I've seen much worse video game stories, this is a plot about uncovering the mystery as to why Wesley's mother was murdered while continuing his transformation into a full-blown assassin, which is really cool, but instead it just feels like Wesley's randomly stumbling through shootouts into boss battles that feel like they come out of nowhere, while his dad is also stumbling through his own shootouts. There's an aura of budgetiness to the game, and the cutscenes are mostly just there to string together excuses to move through the story, but at least at times they were super funny. Like I laughed a lot throughout this game.
And there he was, the immortal. The bastard who ruined my life before it began.
Hey, I like what my dad did to your fucking face.
Fate did this to me, and fate brought you here.
You killed my mother.
Like, it's just so damn amusing, and these lines are just blurted out throughout the game when you're Wesley. The only thing I really loved about the writing, and this can be held against it if it's not your thing, was all the weird things that Wesley said. And whenever you're playing as Cross, the game didn't have these lines, so it wasn't as good. Also, that was the final cutscene in the game, which ends with you shooting the main villain in the head. But on PC, Wesley misses the shot on purpose and pees on his face. Like, like what in the world is this game? I looked up who wrote this game to see how much involvement was from the film's writers or the comic book writers, and it seems like the game was just written by this guy who made a career out of writing for budgety video games and tie-in video games. It sounds like he's living my dream, to be honest. In interviews with the game's producers and developers, they shared that they had access to all the audio assets from the film, but it didn't seem to extend much further than that when it came to their involvement with the film, though they did land Terrence Stamp and Common for the voice work, who both do a good job. Except the thing is, Common isn't playing the character Common played in the movie. He's just playing someone entirely different, like his character died in the movie, so I guess they just made a small new enemy boss role for him, which is tremendous. My theory here is that at the time, Grin, the developers, were also working on the Terminator Salvation game, which had Common in it, actually playing his character from that movie, so they just got him to do some lines for this game too. Or maybe he was meant to play his movie character and something changed in development. Who really knows?
I came for the loom, not for you, asswipe. But now, I'm gonna kill you. Just for fun and a laugh.
How about you hold this?
Getting back on track, you work your way through the game, jumping between Wesley and his father Cross, shooting baddies in some very yellowy environments. The game can be super ugly and washed out at times. There's one sunny outdoor level that's particularly horrific on the eyes because of all the extreme bloom and blur. The location variety is actually pretty good, and the game moves forward through the locations at a quick pace, but you'd be forgiven for saying that all the levels look and feel the same, not only because they're so yellow, but because there's no real gameplay variety or puzzles or anything like that. It's just cover shootout after cover shootout. Wesley has a semi-auto pistol, and Cross has dual full autos, which have explosive curved bullets, but otherwise they can't pick up enemy weapons or throw grenades or anything, so it's really quite simple. They put in mines sometimes, and melee kamikaze guys, or the occasional shielded guy, or a bit of cover you can physically push forwards, but that's really it. There are rare turret and sniping sections, which are fine, and where any other game would have a quick time event, this game has these shooting gallery cutscenes, which are actually really fun, but it's all very, very simple. At a certain point early on, I was questioning whether covering this game was really worth it. The cutscenes were funny, but not good. The bullet curving mechanic was fine, but not amazing, and everything else was functional, but very simple. Then the game introduced a mechanic where you press a button to slow down time while switching cover or exiting cover, and doing so uses 2 adrenaline slots. From that point forwards, I was having a pretty fun time and couldn't really put this game down. Again, it's really, really simple. I mean, it's just a bullet time mechanic, but it's implemented really well and feels really satisfying to use. Like, if you get 2 kills while doing it, you'll refill the slots and you're good to go to do it again, so you can just keep using it over and over. You reach this level set in an aeroplane, which feels a step above the rest of the levels in terms of set piece design and production value. It's really quite a blast to play through, taking out guys in the cargo area and then the passenger cabins before the plane plummets to the ground with you in it. Surprise, surprise, this is also the demo level because of course it is. You've always got to make that one demo level, especially when your game is super budgety. But the rest of the game is quite enjoyable too, even if it feels a lot less expensive. You revisit a lot of the locations from the movie, which is amusing enough, and there's these boss battles which all play out very similarly. You just take out goons to earn adrenaline to take shots on the bosses, but none of the bosses take too long, and you usually have some fun banter with them, and you earn another adrenaline slot every time you beat one, which makes them satisfying enough.
I gotta tell you, I wouldn't have minded making her scream another way, but what the heck. At least her ankles were skyward.
I got you, brother. Oh, no, you don't.
There's a moment towards the end of the game where Wesley finds Cross's corpse and has a bit of a moment before grabbing his dual pistols, and you play out the rest of the game swapping between the 2 weapons, which feels like a nice way to end it.
Hey, it fits. Eh? Well, not perfect, but close enough. Kinda like us. You know, the man who killed Mom, the immortal, I don't think you got him. I think he's still alive. And I know where he is. Thanks, Dad. I owe you.
This cutscene is the most genuinely endearing cutscene the game has. It kind of makes me sad because everything else is just full-on corniness and dodginess. It's almost like this is a flash of what this story could have been, like it could have been something a bit more emotional maybe, but oh well, that's kind of just me asking too much of it. As I was getting towards the end of the game, I felt like I'd gotten used to the bad controls enough to really enjoy curving bullets into people's heads and using bullet time to cover switch everywhere. The thing is, the end of the game really isn't that far away from the start. I'm not exaggerating at all, I finished this game in 2 hours and 45 minutes. That puts this at not even an hour longer than the movie. And if the game were much better, I'd probably criticize it for this like short length, but you know what, the fact is, Wanted Weapons of Fate almost kind of knows it's a bit dodgy and doesn't really overstay its welcome. Like, I think if this game were much longer, the simplicity of it would really start to tire me out, but it never does because it seems to just know when to end. It doesn't matter that it's so mechanically shallow because it's just short and sweet and dumb and kind of fun. I wasn't left feeling super satisfied by an incredible game or anything, like really don't get your hopes up, this isn't an exceptionally fun bite-sized experience or anything like that, but I got to curve some bullets and slow down time and shoot out some bad guys and listen to some really dumb dialogue, and that's enough for me. Maybe I'm just simple. I did notice though that it was very, very, very easy. I rarely died or got stressed out by it, which is especially annoying because again, I couldn't just play in hard mode from the get-go. After beating the game once, I started again in hard mode and predictably had more fun with it, even if it was still a bit easy, and I really noticed how much smoother I was at controlling the game when starting over a second time. The aiming and movement controls will always kind of suck, but once you're used to them, it's easy to have a bit of fun. Now, the game is on PC, which I'd imagine would fix up my control issues, but from what I've read online, apparently it has some real problems with mouse acceleration, so I'm not too sure. Unfortunately, I haven't played it, so I can't confirm any of this, but by all accounts, it seems to be a pretty bad port. There's also a heap of bonus characters and artwork and game modifiers like headshot only and one shot one kill you can play with. You can even play as that evil office lady from the movie, which is kind of funny. Most of this stuff is unlocked through collectibles or just by playing through the story, but a lot of it is unlocked by entering binary codes which are hidden throughout the DVD and the game, which I think is pretty cute, though I was happy to just Google them. And that's kind of all there is to Wanted Weapons of Fate. It's short and sweet, there's no multiplayer, there's not really a lot to it, but it's an amusing enough time waster, especially for the $4 I picked it up for. The McPoyle dialogue alone was worth that. Grin also released Terminator Salvation and the Bionic Commando reboot in 2009 before closing down to financial struggles, and the company's founders made Overkill Software, the guys who made Payday. I want to end this video, as usual, thanking you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I also want to thank all my patrons, including all these beautiful people on the screen right now, wherever they are, and especially including Big Nuts 420, By Minimme Branded Pregnancy Tests, Caden the Dingo, Dad, Devin Grandal, Dump Truck Parked in My Driveway, Evil Chicken, Homer821, Labcat, Lucas Raysevic, Magnus Ikemo Stavik, Mattias Bayes, Maximilian Kunzman, May Aris, Mazoki, Mrs. Minimme, Peaceful Kumquat, Review Disney Planes, Steel Kristenberry, Trixie Emerson, Writing on Games, and Zindictive. Y'all are super cool people. Thank you for supporting me. If you want to check out my Patreon, I do I just did a Q&A where I answered some of your questions. And yeah, anyway, regardless, thanks for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as usual, take it easy. Have a good one.